You're watching DT India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and we return to our top story, our special coverage of the Gaza conflict. DT India's correspondent Amrit Pal Singh joins us from Israel-Lebanon border. Amrit, first, if you could take us through the situation at the border as we speak.
The border with Lebanon is heating up by the day. Hezbollah keeps firing missiles into Syrian territory, as Hassan Nasrallah had said that we will keep the Israeli army engaged on the northern border so that their military efforts are divided between the north and the south. Though it's not, as severe as can be, because given Hezbollah's capability, they haven't jumped in all out, but they've threatened to do so. But they keep constantly firing missiles, especially in places like Syria, Simona, where I am. These villages, the border has been evacuated. You can see behind me that absolutely ghost villages. Nobody here, only the military and a few media persons. And, all the time, rockets from Lebanon keep coming and hitting targets here, though many of them are neutralized by the Israeli army or the Israeli defense forces. And Israel constantly keeps hitting back at the source of the Lebanese, at the source of Hezbollah, about, 57 by Nasrallah's admission have died. Hezbollah fighters have died. The Israeli soldiers have also been killed. One Reuters journalist was killed in Lebanon. So that continuously happens on the Lebanon border. Yeah,
right. Amrit, and what is the direction in which the conflict in Gaza is headed while the calls for ceasefire are getting louder?
There are calls for ceasefire. You're right, they're getting louder, and more calls for ceasefire by the international community. But Israel seems to be in no mood for any ceasefire. Last night alone, it hit 2,500 targets through missiles, and they are at the gates of Gaza now. They are going in for close combat. The Hamas guerrillas they come out, attack them, they go back into their tunnels. Now, I guess in a few days, the next stage would be when they will either have to go into the tunnels, or, they don't share all that military strategy with us, but we hear from here and there that they could use gas, water, etc. to flush the tunnels and flush out the Hamas, and once they are overground, then get into close combat. But the situation of close combat is fast approaching. They are just waiting to get out as many civilians as they can. They opened the road, the Salahuddin highway from the Gaza city to south. But hardly any vehicles passed, so that there was an attack by Hamas on that. There are claims and counterclaims, but it looks like that they are not going to stop. Benjamin Netanyahu time and again has told all world leaders who have called him, or some calling on Tel Aviv, that we will not stop unless our military objective of completely decimating Hamas militarily, which basically means the Izzuddin al-Qassam brigade, and also politically settling the Hamas by virtually killing them all. So that is their stated military objective, and they say unless that is achieved, they will not cease fire.
Right. Amrit, Antony Blinken, Secretary of State of the U.S., is visiting West Asia again. How do we see the significance of this visit, particularly his outreach to the Arab leaders?
It is, there is hectic diplomacy. The meetings that we saw in Amman yesterday, both with the Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister, with the King of Jordan, with UAE was there. His outreach to the Arab leaders is essentially to see that the war does not escalate into a regional conflict. But they were very difficult meetings. If you saw the outcome yesterday and the statements made by the Arabs, they told the Americans very clearly that we want a ceasefire, and the Americans should use their influence over the Israelis. But the problem really for Blinken is that the Israelis aren't listening to the Americans. Or that at least, that is the sort of helplessness the Americans express. Unless, of course, the Americans have an understanding with the Israelis that we carry on, we will call for ceasefire, do a lip service, etc. But all those are assessments and opinions. The fact remains the Israelis are going ahead. but the Americans publicly have called for Joe Biden has called for a humanitarian pause. Benjamin Netanyahu told Anthony Blinken in Tel Aviv there is no question of a humanitarian pause. Those who can get out should get out, or rest if they die, they die. We will not stop unless we complete our military objectives. So the Americans are trying to, one, see if these humanitarian aid goes in, if the Israelis are not going to stop, and second, the civilian casualties are minimized, and third objective is that this does not escalate. So the fourth objective, the mediation through Qatar to get the hostages released.
Right. Amrit, that point once again about the latest on the hostages situation, because Qatari Prime Minister speaks about these false reports of Qatar negotiating for the release of these hostages. What is happening on that front?
Qatar is mediating, but yesterday what you saw from come out from Qatar saying that it's a very difficult situation. And the continued airstrikes by Israel are making the situation worse. I'll tell you what is really happening. Hamas has put its demands clearly. Hamas has said we will release hostages if you stop, if you cease fire, if you stop pounding us. And the other thing that they want is a prisoner swap. They say give us the Palestinian prisoners you have in Israeli prison. These are their two immediate demands. They also put long-term demands like stop Israeli settlements in West Bank, stop lift the C-17-year siege on, the Gaza Strip, etc. The Israelis are in no mood to listen to. Benjamin Netanyahu has made it very clear there is no ceasefire. He believes that the hostages will only be released by Hamas if they tighten the noose on them, when they feel the military pressure. In fact, there are protests happening outside Netanyahu's home. The families of the hostages, I'm talking about Jewish hostages, have pitched tents at the gate of the Kiryat, a military base in Tel Aviv. They are protesting outside Benjamin Netanyahu's home, saying, you haven't done enough. The war cabinet is in no mood to listen to even the hostages' families. They've been telling them that, look, they will not release hostages even after prisoner swap. They will kill them. And the only way to get them released is step up the military pressure on them. And that is what our strategy is. And we keep promising them that we get each and every one of your kith and kin back home. So, on the hostages, basically both sides are not relenting. And it's almost, a month or close to a month since the hostages were taken. And only 5 of them have been released, and the situation remains like that. Meanwhile, Hamas keeps making claims which I cannot verify or vouch for the veracity. They say 50 to 60 hostages have died in Israeli strikes. One doesn't know if that is true as part of the explanation.
Okay, there. Amrit, thanks very much for joining us with those updates. Stay safe as your team gets us the latest from the conflict zone.